This is Ros Jones, your business coach with my weekly podcast show, Bold Business Bits, coming to you from Yorkshire. This is where I have a great conversation with a phenomenal female business boss. We share some of the bold stuff they do, lessons they've learnt, adversities they've overcome, and the fun they have. And then I'll be dipping into my toolkit and sharing a top tip. Business can be lonely, so make sure you join us each week and be part of our show. Well, hello and welcome. This is Ros Jones and the Bold Business Bits podcast show. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Hayley Cooke of Your Guest. Here we are at the beautiful Highcliffe Manor just outside Flamborough. Hello, Hayley.
Good morning. Hello.
So thank you so much for joining me. And today, I want to talk with you about your journey, if you like, to how you got here today at Highcliffe Manor. But so how did it start?
That is a really good question. I often think back and reflect and ask that to myself. You know, how did I get here? By accident is the answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Highcliffe Manor is a property that we manage under the brand Your Guest. And it was, by coincidence of being in the right place at the right time in Mallorca, of all places, where I met the family, the owner of Highcliffe Manor, and just shared my story and experience of working in events and hospitality. And, they shared with me that they have this beautiful home out near Flamborough that is sat empty. And wow. I just thought, we can't be having that. We need to bring it back to life. And yeah, so conversation started quite literally in a karaoke bar in Mallorca. and it ended in here in Highcliffe. And that's what we've done. We've spent the last year bringing it back to life and utilising the space and getting people to enjoy what the family have for over 2 decades.
Fantastic. So I love this thing about accidental meetings, that actually were always meant to be. But how did you get into the events business anyway, Hayley?
Do you know, I've always had a practical rather than an academic head. When I was growing up, as a teenager, if there was a sort of an event or something to organise or bring people together, friends and family, I was always that person. And because of my dyslexia, I find that I sort of naturally fall into that sort of role. So it felt for me just the most natural thing for me to go into professionally. And that's when I decided that I wanted to go into events, which was sort of corporate hospitality, weddings. And so I got educated in that and I did a degree in events management.
Okay. But I don't think that you followed the traditional route to university, did you? Tell me about what happened there.
No, that is very true. I'm very proud in that as a 19-year-old, I was a parent. And it's such a wonderful experience. But it didn't stop me. Yeah, it wasn't the traditional route in that I went to university and then started a family. I actually started a family and then I went to university. So, yes.
And how did that work? Did you take your child to lectures?
I did, actually. And for my university friends who will be listening, that they will remember the times when I'd be handing in coursework or, turning up for a lecture and I had a 1-year-old in the pram and they loved it. I mean, who brings a child to university when, you're surrounded by 18-year-olds? So no, that they were really supportive and I just got on with it.
Yeah, brilliant. And so you always had a burning desire to get into corporate events and that's what you did, is that?
Yeah, so whilst at university, like most students, I had to support myself financially. So I did a job share and that was wonderful. That was really, I loved that. Sort of environment of where you share that responsibility, particularly in events. And I'd fallen into the wedding sector. And weddings, as you can imagine, can be quite stressful environment. You've got that one moment to get that song played right as they walk down the aisle, and everything's got to be perfect. In fact, it's got to be beyond expectation, in terms of getting things right. So I did a job share. I worked a couple of venues in York looking after weddings, which fell into events. And whilst I was doing that, I was getting asked through friends who were in the hospitality and corporate sector in events if I could come in and step in and do a bit of freelance work. And as a sort of a young 20-year-old, as well as working and doing my own job share, I started doing self-employed work as well. And that then introduced me to the world of travel and corporate hospitality.
And so to begin with, you weren't self-employed from the word go then?
No, I did like the sort of 1 or 2 jobs a year where I was working on corporate events where they were typically attracting sort of anything from 3 to maybe 500 people, and it just needed extra staff to help run those events. Yeah, okay. So I got an air of responsibility. So I just did that, and for me that was my holiday money. It was a bit of pocket money, So but it was the start of something that is in me today, which is working for yourself.
Yeah. What's behind that, wanting to work for yourself?
Well, I've never not enjoyed being employed, but I've always felt restricted in terms of time to request time off.
Yes.
Was it 35 days annual leave or time to spend with family? I find that I work more productively on an evening, and I think that's the habit of having my daughter so young and being in education and doing my degree. I had to work on an evening, and as much as I've tried to get up really early and start my day and be productive at 9, that's not how I function. So for me, it's the way that I work and working with that.
Yeah, I think more and more people, are liking that. And I think even in full-time employment, I think employers are recognising that some people want to work different hours. And I think there is a bit more flexibility, I've heard anyway. But anyway, but you also have a passion for travelling. Is that correct?
I do. So, So very fortunate growing up. Parents took us overseas, which I think is a great experience as a child, because not everyone gets to experience going abroad. But there was more in me. And, when I'd finished my degree, I was feeling very guilty in that I'd given so much time to studying that, I wasn't always present in that moment with my daughter. And at that age, she was just starting to start her own education and starting school. And I knew that, I've always worked hard, as some people say, graft. And I just wanted to take some time out before I went down, that sort of career route. So I literally packed my bags. My parents thought I was mad, and my friends gave me the most beautiful send-off. And I went backpacking for 6 months.
Wow.
With a 5-year-old.
Wow, just the 2 of you?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So, and what did that, what happened then? What did that give you?
Do you know, it gave me incredible experiences of culture, people. For me, it was an education with my daughter, because as much as I wanted to sit down and do spellings and reading and all that sort of thing, I tried, but friends who were teachers gave me books, and they were so heavy to carry. Yeah. I think within a week they'd gone out of my bag because I just couldn't, carry them for much longer. But, actually teaching around travel, reading a board in an airplane, in an airport, mm-hmm. Locating yourself from A to B, speaking with strangers, safety. For me, they're life skills that you need to adapt and work with every day. So for me, that was her education.
Yeah. And where did you go? What was the highlights?
So we started off in Singapore, and we had just short of a week in Singapore, who we met this most amazing couple from Australia that did what the Australians do perfect, which was hospitality. If you're ever passing by, stop and stay with us. And when I got to Australia, I did a tour of the East Coast. So I flew into Cairns, and I got the Greyhound bus. For those who've travelled Australia, I'm sure that's a very familiar sighting with the coach. And I travelled from Cairns all the way down to Brisbane, and happened to be passing this couple's house. And I ended up spending, I think, 2 weeks with them, and in a place called Rockhampton. And
Did they know that you were coming? They just knocked on the door?
Well, we exchanged emails, okay. So that was great. But your question before around sort of what travelling gave me, we're going back just over 10 years now. And it's when Airbnb became a thing. It literally had just started, or it was evolving, particularly in places like Australia. And what I loved about it is that I never once stayed in a hotel. So I always stayed with families or women. And so it gave me a great insight into their lives. It gave me a great insight into that culture, but it's given me friends for life. And then Airbnb is then something that I've fallen into as a host myself. And it's what my business is about. It's about hosting people, guests, experiences. So I didn't know then that's what I'd be doing. I always thought it'd be events, which is still something that we're involved in here at Highcliffe. But I didn't know back then how much it would mean to me now in my career. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that these little signals we get early on in our lives just end up becoming who we are, what we do? I love that.
It's fantastic. It's the stories, it's the narrative to our lives.
Yeah. Fascinating. So in this time, so you've chosen to run events and weddings at a time when no weddings and events can happen. So
I know.
What have you been doing this year? Tell me about how it's... Yeah.
Well, how do you even describe, or, you go back and think, yeah, so that started in February. It's now November. Where's this year gone? Do you know, in some respects, I've really enjoyed this time just to slow and pause and get the business sort of in a place so that when we do reopen and, we can legally host groups, gatherings and events and stuff, that we are in a good position. And also that I'm in a good position in terms of being, physically well, mentally, because things did get quite intense before lockdown in terms of workload. So, yeah, so it's for me, it's using this time to pause.
And you're about to launch a new aspect of your business, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. So we'd started Your Guest last year and we'd ran back in January sort of an open launch night, really just to share our experiences of how we've managed our own properties and to invite potential clients to come on board.
So Your Guest is not just about events then?
That's right, yes. So the foundation of Your Guest is what you would call serviced accommodation.
Okay.
So holiday homes, which range from apartments to boutiques to manor houses like Highcliffe.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, how did it start then?
Again, by accident. So I was travelling, I was working overseas really quite intensively over the last 2 years. So I was away every month, spent a lot of time in London as well. Because of my experience of Airbnb, I started renting my property out. That became a success. People, were happy to use my space whilst I wasn't there. So it was very clear that it wasn't, a property that was empty. It was my home. And then from there, I went into business with a friend and we bought an investment property and started running that solely as a holiday let. And then we started to get asked to help and support friends and even family that were wanting to go into it. And it sort of escalated from there. And then as I started to feel that I wanted to come away from travelling and corporate events being sort of conferences and, meetings as such, I just sort of naturally sort of was drawn into, serviced accommodation.
Wow. And is that just in the UK or is it abroad as well?
It is just in the UK. We do have a property that we have access to, which the owner would like us to rent out over in Mallorca. I'm not educated as such in sort of the laws out there. So it's something that we are looking to expand, but not quite yet. I want to get things right in the UK first.
Yeah, okay. And so you had the launch event and then obviously you couldn't go ahead. So what happened? Well,
do you know, the launch event, I mean, I hadn't done events for a few weeks, as in like maybe 2 months before the launch. So I had my clipboard, I was so excited. I was like, this is great. I've got a project here and it's mine. I am the client. And the room was filled and it was a really great ambience. And it was just us sharing our experiences, saying, we look after our own properties. We've had this success. This is the return that we've got in this last year. We know the things that guests look out for. And we just shared that. And that was our sales pitch. And pretty much every person that was in that room signed up with us. And this is in January. And they were majority of people were already in a contract with, I guess, what you'd call our competitors. So they weren't able to come over to us till sort of March, April time. Now, we didn't know in January that March, April time that the whole world would come to a lockdown. So we'd very successfully secured these clients that came with these properties. And then, of course, lockdown. Mm. But I will always remember the 4th of July, because that's when the hospitality and holiday homes travel reopened. And my business partner, Lorraine, and I, we had no idea what we were up for. We'd gone from having days where you had a lot of time on your hands. Yes. For me, I'm really into fitness and outdoors. So I was literally walking myself tired because I would go out for a long walk so that I felt that I'd earned my sleep that night. And then the 4th of July came and you can imagine all the clients in our own properties had suddenly gone live in the people were desperate. And I use that word desperate because they were desperate to get away from their four walls. Yeah. And so suddenly we'd gone from having this business idea to actually running the business. That was fun.
Yeah, fantastic. And so is it more than now about the letting side?
Yeah, twofold really. Yeah, it's about the letting. So it's also, there's a huge movement in serviced accommodation around direct bookings.
Right.
So rather than relying on your online travel agents like booking.com and Airbnb, where high commissions are charged, it's actually about drawing your potential or returning guests to you to book directly so that we can reinvest that money in the business and also employ our own staff as well. And that's something that we're very, very keen on getting right, employing our own cleaners, administrators, so that we've got that control and we can train, in those areas as well.
I love that. Have you got a goal or a vision for your business? What's it look like going forward?
Well, the thing is that I'm not really a detailed person, especially when it comes to some of the tasks that's associated with running with business. And Lorraine's very patient with me because she's very good. So for me, the vision I have is that I love team. I love being around people and I want to grow a team and I want them to do a far better job than me, but I want to create and manage that team.
Yeah, I love it. And what about your aspirations for you personally? Yeah,
well, I've got sort of aspirations in terms of what we call passive income.
Yeah.
So I want to be in a position so that, my business and the properties that I have is generating an income in my sleep.
Yeah.
So that frees me up to do things. And those things that I want to be freed up to, I'll always have a passion and a heart for travel. But I also have a heart for helping others. I've grown up in a community that gave me a lot of experiences in giving my time in charitable ways. I would love to meet and support young women, that are in a position like I was as a teenager with a child, and how that should never stop you from achieving or wanting things in life because you become a parent. If anything, it's appetite and thirst for more. So there's something around mentoring and supporting that I would like to utilise my time with.
Yeah, I love that. Based on what you know now, with your journey you've had, what advice would you give me if I'm just thinking about maybe I want to start a business?
Yeah, okay. I would love to have spoken to myself even a year ago with that. Not to be sort of taken over by your own thoughts, in that talk to people, and sometimes you can end up speaking to the wrong person and they can be quite negative, or, they're not giving you the sort of the insight that you want. But just to share those ideas and get it written down as well. And that's the thing, again, that detail of, writing is not something that I enjoy doing, but there's other ways. So yeah, talking about it, getting the support. There's amazing networking groups as well. But the biggest thing for me is accountability. That is so important, because there's many times where we've had ideas or we've wanted to see something through, and if you're left to your own timings and to your own ways of working, and if you're like me, I can put those big priorities off, things don't get done. So accountability for anyone that's starting up in business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we need a business coach, isn't it, Hayley?
We certainly do, absolutely.
The thing is, it is right, isn't it? Because we are human beings, and humans will do anything just to stay in our comfortable little place, won't we? Even though we've got these big dreams.
Exactly. And how easy is it to tick off, and how rewarding is it to cross off the most easiest task? And, we learn from our mistakes. And I've, this year, when I look back at the things that I was putting off, and they were really important things, speaking to very important officials, like the council, and, and actually, why did I put that off? Because they've been really supportive. Throughout lockdown, I really have to credit the local authorities, through the support, advice. They've been fantastic. Why did I put that off? And there's other experiences, examples I can give. But you need accountability for sure.
Yeah. And then what about this place and this wonderful Highcliffe Manor here? What's the vision for here?
Highcliffe Manor, wow, this is a project in itself. And that's part of the vision, that, to grow the team at Your Guest so that the properties that we run day to day can run themselves with the team. Because the plans at Highcliffe are relentless. I mean, where do we start? I mean, this is a 9-bedroomed Victorian manor house with 11 acres of land. I mean, we've got derelict barns, and there is just so much to do. So it's going to be a wedding venue for sure, and particularly those small intimate weddings work beautiful in this setting because people can stay and have exclusive hire of the premises. But then we've got the grounds. I mean, I've done marquee TP weddings in the past. Obviously, they're not a thing at the moment because of the restrictions on weddings and groups, but yeah, it's really bringing this place alive through the wedding industry, and then reinvesting, regenerating that money that we make through the events back into the property, because any property of any size will always come with its maintenance, and there's things that we want to do with the bedrooms, for example, renovation. So yeah, I mean, we could talk all day about Highcliffe.
How do people get in touch to find out more about Highcliffe or about you, if they want to get in touch? Hayley, where do they go?
Yeah, great. So yeah, just search Your Guest, Highcliffe Manor. For both of the pages, we've got social media sites, websites, and on there you'll have a number, email. So yeah, it's quite easy, especially with social media. You just need to put in a hashtag, don't you?
Yeah,
and you'll come across us.
Well, it's been absolute delight and pleasure to meet with you, Hayley, and to learn more about your journey. And I wish you every success. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
In our conversation, Hayley spoke about the importance of accountability. Clearly, as a business coach, I'm a bit biased in thinking that accountability is key. It's about being answerable for our actions, about holding ourselves accountable, able to account for our actions, able to report back to someone that you've done what you said you'd do. Really, I think we need an external person to be our accountability buddy, if you like. Personally, I have a business coach to whom I report back on my progress. I had a running coach to hold me account when I wanted to exceed my personal best in running a half marathon. We are creatures of comfort after all, and we'll put stuff off if we don't take accountability seriously. It's so easy to make excuses and put it off for a day. I now actually have a writing coach. I've been talking about being a writer and writing a book for years and years and years, and never actually had the courage or made the time to sit down and write my book. So now I'm paying somebody to make sure that I get this book done. We agree the outcome for the week or the 2 weeks, and I have to do that work because when I meet her next, she'll expect to have received that work. So I think having someone external as your accountability partner and then paying them is best. You have to do what you say you'll do. Otherwise, you'll just be making excuses. And why would you waste money on just making excuses? Excuses are not allowed. But there is a great model that I learned from the top executive coach in the world, Marshall Goldsmith. You can use it yourself to hold yourself accountable every day. I learned it from him personally, actually. I was lucky enough to go to a workshop with him, but he has a book called Triggers that you can read and learn this from that book. And basically, he personally has a list of about 32 things that he wants to achieve each day. He sets himself the goals each day that he's going to do, and then at the end of the day, he has this list and he asks himself, did I do my best today to whatever the goal was, to smash my goals? Did I do my best today to read for half an hour? Did I do my best today to be kind to everybody I met? Those kind of things. I think it's a great model. So you set yourself the goals at the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, you score yourself between 1 and 10 on how well you did your best today to achieve those things. You can do it by yourself, of course, but again, human beings, we like to lie to ourselves. We make excuses. So it could be that you actually agree to have somebody that you send your scores to. So I know Marshall Goldsmith actually sends them to his PA, I think it is, at the end of each day, wherever he, when he used to travel, wherever he was in the world, he would email his scores to his PA so that he could hold himself accountable to being the best that he wanted to be each day. So there you are, a little section there on accountability. How willing are you to be accountable for your actions? So this is Ros Jones. This has been our Bold Business Bits podcast show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing you next time. Bye for now. This has been your Ros Jones Bold Business Bits podcast show. If you'd like any further information about anything we've discussed today, please just get in touch. Go to businesscoachingyorkshire.co.uk. Please join me again next week when I'll be speaking with another phenomenal female business boss with bold business bits. And remember to subscribe to my show. Thanks for listening.